Alright folks, back again. This time actually going to get a little bit of work done in the shop today. Went to Home Depot and picked up a few things. Some 2x12 for some workbench tops, a couple 60 amp breakers, some screws, and most expensive thing, some 6 gauge 3-wire electrical cord, and some outlets and plug-ins so that I can wire a couple more circuits out here for new welder and that plasma cutter. First project though today is a new stand for the Anvil. As you can see, my old stand is an old stump, but was a little bit short, so I had to jack it up, and it's not cut straight and it doesn't sit right on this nice flat cement floor. So I'm going to take some 4x4s and cut those and stack those up and make those into a quick simple anvil stand. So I'm going to go ahead and get the lumber cut and get working. It shouldn't take too long. Now, the design for this anvil stand is really quite simple. Just a series of 4x4s stacked together, 4 across, and there'll be 6 rows of these. So what'll happen is have this base row, 4 going across. The next row will run this way, 4 across, so on and so forth till you build up in height. Now, 4 4x4s, which being dimensional lumber, aren't actually 4x4 inches, they're actually 3.5 by 3.5 inches. 4 4x4s put together like this are 14 inches across. So what I'm going to do is cut each 4x4 section into 14 inches, and I'll have 4 of those per row and 6 rows total, meaning that I'll need a total of 24 14-inch 4x4 sections. This saw is just barely small enough to the point where it won't completely cut all the way through, so I gotta rotate it. There's 2 of the 14-inch pieces and 22 more to go. Well folks, halfway through cutting the wood for my anvil stand, I had a little bit of problems with this saw. For some reason it tried to start munching the brushes and then wouldn't cut on again. Well, what I've determined is this switch, the contacts have seized. It should make a clicking noise as the contacts work back and forth. So had to pull this apart, and I'll disassemble this switch here and take a piece of sandpaper and clean up those contacts, and hopefully that should fix the problem. I've already pulled the brushes out and checked those and cleaned those up a little bit, so it should hopefully work once I get this disassembled. Alrighty, so as you can see, push the switch and that lower contact doesn't do anything. I freed it and now it works properly. So just got to get some sandpaper and run it through there and clean up those contacts, and hopefully that'll solve the issue and I'll be able to go back to work. Alrighty, got the switch back together and see if it works. Alrighty, got all the 4x4s cut and went ahead and threw the anvil on top, and I think I'm going to need to raise it about another inch, inch and a half. When setting your anvil height, you'll want to set it so that it comes up to roughly where your fist touches the top of the anvil. You're standing up straight and comfortably. So as you can see, I'm a little bit shy of that, so I'm going to go ahead and take 2x8 and cut a couple pieces of that to go on top, and that'll bump up the height of the anvil just enough to meet that that proper height. Screw everything together, I'm using 4.5 inch special wood screws by Spax. They are Torx head drive, and you won't be able to see on the film here, but the first few threads are actually larger and have teeth on them, and I've used these on a previous project of building a fence, and they make life so much easier. They drive into the wood much easier. You don't have to pre-drill your holes or anything. So they're a really good product from my experience. A little bit more expensive, but in my opinion, worth it. And of course, you have to have a T30 Torx drive to screw these in, but you know, in my opinion, worth the extra money to save some hassle and save some time. Alrighty, there's the first level. As you can see, it's nice and solid and doesn't rock. So now it's just a matter of stacking up the next course and screwing it down. Now I'm making sure to drive these flush so that the next row will stack on top neatly. helped sink the screws a little bit easier. I went ahead and put some soap on them. That just reduces the friction a bit and makes it a little bit easier on the drill to drive these things in. Here's the final row. Alrighty, so here's the completed anvil stand. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but considering I found all that wood stuff back behind the trees on the back of my property, not too expensive. So as you can see, it's really stable, doesn't rock, so should be a lot better than this unit here, which rocks all over the place and the top of it's not very flat. There it is with the anvil on top. Again, nice and stable, nothing moves or rocks. So, one anvil stand. Pretty simple project, pretty easy to do, and makes for a lot better working conditions than what I had previously. And to finish off the stand is a way to secure the anvil onto the stand. A lot of people will, chain the anvil to the stand, chain around, or take railroad spikes and drive those in to hold the feet. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make a wood cutout that fits this inside curvature of the anvil, and that'll lock the anvil in place. And if I want to, I can chain over the top of that, but I don't think it'll be necessary. It'll just keep the anvil from shifting on the stand. I don't really think it's going to be jumping or do anything like that. So I'm just tracing around the outside of the anvil so I can get it placed back exactly, since I've already measured and centered the anvil exactly on my stand here. Then I'm going to go ahead and trace and cut out a little section of wood that'll fit right in here and screw it down. Alright, so what I've done is I've put a piece of paper under the anvil, and I'm just going to go ahead and trace around this little circular cutout in the anvil. And I'll use that as my template to cut the piece of wood that will secure the anvil on either side. Alrighty, so I've got my template. I'm just going to line it on my piece of wood. Trace around the outside, flip it over, and do the same for the other side. Since the other side of the anvil is shaped exactly the same, use the same template for both. There we go. Now I'll go and cut it out on the bandsaw. cutting some relief cuts so that as I come around the radius of this bin, the blade won't bind. Alrighty, got the anvil centered back on the stand, and I've got this pressed up firmly against it. So I'm just going to sink a few screws in, and that'll lock the anvil in place. Alrighty, so as you can see, the anvil is locked in tight. Alrighty, so there's a completed anvil stand with the anvil securely held in place. Both sides, nothing budges. So, should be good. As I use it, I'll see if I feel the need to you know, either chain it down or do whatever, but I think for the moment this is going to hold the anvil pretty secure. I don't really expect it to be jumping around too much. I've got the stand nice and level and flat, so it should be good.